Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled and honored to be here today with Dre Baldwin. Dre is the CEO and founder of Work on Your Game. He's done 4 TEDxTalks. He's written 33 books. He's had a 9-year professional basketball career, and he has created a framework for his work, which is the roadmap in reverse, which I want to hear more about that. So welcome, Dre. Great to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here, Gloria. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about this concept of work on your game. Obviously, as a professional basketball player, we know that athletes work on their game, right? But how does that have anything to do with those of us who are not professional athletes and who are entrepreneurs, network affiliate marketers?
Yeah, good question. Well, hopefully most athletes work on their game. Now, some of them are so talented that they don't have to, or at least they don't think they do. But yes, we all want to work on our games, because when I say the word game, that doesn't necessarily mean playing literally a game or playing a sport or a video game. Game is just whatever space you're in. Now, if you're running a business, there's a game that's being played there, and there are moves you need to make. There's a scoreboard you need to follow. There's opposition, there's competition you got to go against. There's a win. You know what your win is. You know what it looks like to lose. Sometimes you got to call timeout, right? Sometimes there's an injury. So the same things that apply in sports apply in business life. I don't care if you're a librarian, a maintenance man, you drive a garbage truck, you run a business, you have a network marketing team. There's a game that's being played there, and you need to know what that game is, develop your skills to play that game. Then you got to go out there and perform, because we're all in a performance-based business.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I can't argue with any of that. Now, let's talk about discipline, because I mean, I've never been a professional athlete, but I mean, most of us certainly have a concept of most athletes are really working out. You know, they're spending a lot of time in the gym, or, you know, and on the court in your case, doing drills, doing different things. And it really would take discipline. And in my experience in business, I can't think of anybody who's been quite successful without some level of discipline. Would you agree with that?
1,000%. And even in the sports world, ironically enough, Gloria, that again, with the sports, I mean, we know that only a small percentage of people ever get a chance to play sports. And when you're talking specifically with sports, it's a genetic lottery. You have to have some level of genetics to even be eligible. And then once you get there, what separates the all-stars from the regular guys is professionalism, also known as discipline. Your willingness to keep showing up every day and doing that work. Like you said, being in the gym, doing the drills, practicing, working out, taking care of your body, not being out partying, not abusing your body. And there's some athletes who are talented enough to get up there, but they're not disciplined enough to stay there. And it's the same thing in the business world, where with business, there's a much larger pool of eligible competitors. However, it's the discipline that often separates those who, even once you figured it out and you have the right vehicle, is the discipline that separates those who end up being successful long-term over 10, 20, 30 years versus those who might only be successful for a few months and then they fade off again. So absolutely, the discipline is the key to professionalism. That preparation, showing up consistently, people knowing what to expect from you, all of that is under the heading of discipline. And it's the most important aspect of my entire framework.
I agree with you. But here's the thing, Dre, I talk to network marketers all the time who, you know, and I talk about being consistent, and that it takes consistency. You know, or I had a mentor who used to say, ordinary things consistently done produce extraordinary results. And it truly is ordinary. Like the stuff we're doing in network marketing is pretty darn ordinary, but it's about doing it consistently over a long enough period of time. And what I find is that, number one, people are consistent for a day, you know, which is nothing. And even if they're consistent, maybe they'll do it for a month or two, but not over a long enough period of time. So what on earth do you do to help people have that discipline?
Excellent question. So let's reverse engineer this. And this is how I help people figure out and solve problems. So reverse engineering this is, people want the consistency. All right. Consistency is a result of having discipline. And the challenge for most people is, I'm sure you talk to a lot of, especially in network marketing, where you're on your own, right? You are essentially on your own. You can plug into people, but you're in charge of the entity, right? And a lot of people say they want to be more disciplined. I want to be more disciplined, and I want to talk to more people every day, right? I want to make more calls. I want to follow up. I need to read more books. I need to do more personal development. People, and in the sports world, people are saying the same stuff. In entrepreneurial world, I want to write more books. I want to launch my podcast. I want to, whatever the thing is, I want to finish my course, whatever.
Right.
I need to be more disciplined. That's what they say. I need to be more disciplined. And I'll ask somebody a question, because people will come to me talking about this, and I'll say, well, what do you feel like you need to do? What needs to change in order for you to get that consistency and to actually do that thing? Or they say, well, I just got to be more disciplined. LOL. I got to push myself. I got to work harder. All these things. Discipline is often it's elusive to people because people go about it the wrong way. They have an inaccurate formula is what I call it. And they try to force feed discipline on themselves. That does not work. You can't force feed discipline. And this is the reason why many people who try to be disciplined fail to be disciplined, because they're trying to make themselves, it's got to be more disciplined. If it was really that simple, everybody would do it, because
absolutely right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
if you stop 20 people, go ahead.
Yeah. For some reason or another, I got the discipline gene in business. I don't know why, but I am just laser focused, super disciplined in business.
Right. So you're a robot, as they would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. But weight loss, don't take away my chocolate. Don't do that. Don't take away my sugar. Like discipline in diet has completely and totally eluded me. So I want to hear more about this, because I agree with you. Like, I try to force feed discipline on myself when it comes to dieting. It doesn't work.
Right. It doesn't work anywhere where you try to force feed it, because as the saying goes, no one can outperform their self-image. Right? You can't perform in a way that is incongruent with your self-image over an extended period of time. You can do it for a day, like you said, but you can't do it for months and weeks and years. So when you try to force feed discipline, is never going to work. That's just the wrong way to go about it. So what people need to understand is where discipline comes from. Discipline is not at the top of the hierarchy. At the top, higher up on the hierarchy, is structure. Structure creates discipline. So if you want to be more disciplined, the first thing you need is more structure in place. You got to have the structure. So an example that I use is, think of a class full of second graders. Do you have children, Gloria?
I don't. But
okay, so
I was a kid.
Okay, you were in second grade. You went to second grade. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're in second grade and the kids realize one day that the main teacher is not there and the substitute walks in, well, what's the first thing the kids start to think? Today's going to be a zoo, right? Yeah. We can do whatever we want because the main teacher is not there, because the teacher represents what? Structure. They represent organization. They represent rules. And as soon as the structure is no longer there, the discipline can go out the window. And this is what happens with a lot of people. And this is the reason why many entrepreneurs fail, not because they don't have good ideas or talent, but because they don't have the structure that would force the discipline upon them, like you get when you work in a corporation, for example. But when you're an entrepreneur on your own, you have to create the structure. And a person who does not have that self-discipline can often fail, even if they have, again, the right products. And there's even a willing audience out there willing to buy from them, because there's no structure. So what you need is to put the structure in place. What needs to happen? When does it happen? Easiest structure tool that we have available to all of us right at our fingertips is called a calendar. And you notice that many people don't use it. they don't schedule out their days, and then they don't hold themselves accountable to what's on the calendar, even when they put it in the calendar. So this lack of structure is what costs a lot of people their opportunities. And this is the reason why the consulting and the coaching industries exist. The reason why the entrepreneurs get together in groups to help each other out, so that that structure can be in place, or at least some form of structure. So for you, when it comes to that weight loss, well, what represents structure? Probably a personal trainer or a nutritionist, right? Who's going to tell you, hey, they're going to come in your kitchen and they're going to see everything that's in there, and they're going to make some adjustments. Let's just put it that way, Gloria. They're going to get some stuff out of there. Right?
Don't look now with the holidays. Don't look at my kitchen.
Right. So they're going to create some structure, right? That's the whole point. And when you have the structure in place, it does not have to come from us personally. It doesn't have to come from you. It can come from someone else. When the structure is in place, discipline is a natural byproduct of structure. It's a natural byproduct. So I played sports. I played team sports a lot of my life. The coach represents the structure, and the trainers and the assistant coaches, they represent the structure. We have practice at this time. The game is at this time. When you come to practice, you need to be dressed like this. This is the time we need to start. This is how you need to wear your uniform. This is what you need to wear when we travel to a game. Here's in college. Here's what you need to do in class. You need to be sitting in the first 3 rows. You got to have this minimum GPA or you can't play. All of it is a representation of what? Structure. They're telling you exactly what the rules are. Did you go to college, university?
I did. Yep.
Okay, so at the beginning of every class, the first class meeting of every class, what does the professor hand out? A syllabus, right? And what's the purpose of the syllabus? It's to let you know this is the structure of how this class is going to go. Here's what I'm going to teach. Here's my process. Here's how many classes you can afford to miss before you get a failing grade. All right, here's when the midterm is going to be. Here's where the final is going to be. Here's how your grade is determined. Here are the things you need to do. Here are the things that are optional. Here are the options to get more from me if you need my help. Here are my office hours. What are they telling you? The structure of how it works. If you want to be successful here and you want to get the disciplined result, here's the structure of what is available to you. Here's what you can follow, and here's where you be messing up. So they're giving you the structure right there up front. So if people start to think like this, you start to notice this in all aspects of life, that there's structures all over the place. What we need to do is take advantage of those structures and plug them into our situations so that we can produce the discipline that we want.
Right. Love that. So how does discipline create confidence?
Discipline creates confidence because, again, we go back to what is confidence. Confidence is the belief in your ability to do something. So how do you get your belief in your ability for anything is from having done it on some level. So the more you practice, the more you afford yourself the belief that you can do a thing. So if I practice shooting free throws by myself in an empty gym, then I'll have a little bit, at least some, more confidence when I get into the game and I need to shoot free throws. Now, sometimes people would ask, well, what about the live situation? That's different than the practice situation. In that moment, then you can borrow your confidence a little bit from someone who's been there before, use them as a kind of as a proxy for your experience. And then after you've done it, now you can use yourself. But the reason why confidence comes from discipline is because when you do the work consistently, that affords you the ability to believe in yourself and then go out there and perform because you know you've done the work already.
So I'm just thinking about entrepreneurs, network affiliate marketers. I'm thinking about myself, actually, before I figured out how to be successful in this industry. And I struggled and I struggled and I struggled and I struggled. And I really thought there was some secret that the top earners weren't sharing with us. And what I found out the secret was that you just have to be consistent over a long enough period of time. Surprise, surprise, it takes patience. I mean, you have to do the right activities consistently over a long enough period of time. And what I've found for lots of different things for me and my business is that 6 months tends to be when I started my YouTube channel. 6 months, crickets. And then after 6 months, boom, it took off. Same thing happened when I started really consistently working LinkedIn to build my network marketing business. Nothing. Oh man, I was rock solid 7 days a week, consistent. And then after 6 months, I finally made $3,500 in 1 month. And I thought I died and gone to heaven with $3,500, right? And then the next month I made $35,000. And then within 4 months after that, I'd made over $165,000. But most people, in my experience, are not willing to be consistent, be disciplined, and put in the time to create that confidence. It's tricky, right? Because we have to put in the work. Like you had to put in the work practicing free throws. Right?
Right.
Over a long enough period of time. I mean, you didn't just do it 5 times and say, oh, good, I got this, Right.
So it connects in a couple of ways there, Gloria, from what you said. So you touched on actually three parts here. Is discipline. Even once the discipline does create the confidence, that doesn't mean you stop doing the disciplined work, because once you get good enough, like whatever you were doing for 6 months straight to make your LinkedIn start working or your YouTube channel start working, once it started working and turning over and you hit that critical mass, you need to keep doing it. You need to keep priming the pump so that whatever you were doing to get it going, it keeps going. You can't just stop just because you got there. It's just like an athlete. You get good at shooting the 3-point shot. You don't stop practicing because you're good. You keep practicing so that you can stay good. And that's how the discipline creates the confidence. And it's a perpetual cycle, because confidence is not like a one-time product that you buy. It's like a membership. All right. It's a recurring revenue model. You have to keep paying the price for the membership, same way you keep paying every month for your electric bill or your gym membership or for your phone. You stop paying, then the service stops working, right? It's the same thing when it comes to discipline, paying for confidence.
That's so true. I love that analogy. I've never heard that before, but you're absolutely right. You stop paying, the service stops coming. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's how discipline and confidence, they work together, but they keep going. And another thing that you said there, when you talked about that 6 months of hitting it consistently and then hitting critical mass on both your content and with LinkedIn, we're talking about mental toughness, which is the next piece after discipline and confidence, is the mental toughness and the framework. And that's continuing to show up, doing the work, putting your stuff out there, and believing that it's going to work even when it's not working, even when reality is saying this is not working. And I remember Napoleon Hill said this in one of his lectures after Think and Grow Rich came out. He said, how many times do you think the average person tries something before they give up and stop? What do you think the answer is?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say 3 to 5.
You're very optimistic. It's between 0 and 1.
Wow.
Because
wow.
So what happens, Gloria, is most people, well, some people, the really ambitious, they will try something one time, and if it doesn't work, they quit. And I'm sure in your industry, you come across, there's a whole graveyard of would have been, right? People who showed up and never did anything. And then the majority of people, they never actually try one time. They think about it, consider it, and never actually start. So that's how you get the average of between 0 and 1. That's how often most people try anything. But we both know in the sales world that the average person buys after they see something 7, 8, 10, 20, 30 times, not one time. And this is the reason why many people don't succeed.
Yeah, that's so true. So how do you create that mental toughness? How do you create the mental toughness, would you say? Like, you said it, the graveyard is full of people who never made it in network marketing. Well, in fact, you told me yourself you had a little stint in network marketing early on in your career, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm in the graveyard because I didn't stay in network marketing, but a lot of what I learned in it fueled what I do as an entrepreneur today, though. So I was very thankful for that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those people who, I think an awful lot of people still have some dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe as life has gone on, their dreams have gotten, knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, but they have some wishes, some desires, whether it's to get out from underneath a mountain of debt or, be able to retire at some point in their life and have more than Social Security or whatever country you live in, if you even have some kind of government, something or other supporting you. So I think most people still have, and maybe I'm wrong about that, most people, but for those people that still have something, I mean, you've got to have some kind of desire to even get involved in network marketing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So for those people who at least have some kind of desire and have been knocked down, what you're saying then is you start with structure and you build from structure to confidence to mental toughness. Is that what you're saying?
I will put it this way. I will say, first of all, I think everybody has some desire within them. It's just some people are more honest about what that desire is and more willing to go after it. And there are others who do have desires, but they have either been knocked down by actual trial and error, or again, as Napoleon Hill said, many people knock themselves down before they ever trial. There's no trial and no error. They just think about it and they just give up. They never even try. So everybody has desire, because if you don't have desire, you won't wake up. You won't wake up tomorrow morning. Everyone has desire to do something, right? Yes. But many people don't have the courage to go after what they desire. And confidence and courage are not the same thing. We can come back to that if you wish. And so the answer to your question here is for the mental toughness. The mental toughness is kind of like the security guard for your discipline and your confidence. It's like if you see a famous person, the president or something, coming through and they had the Secret Service with them clearing the way, that's what the mental toughness is. Because mental toughness is the understanding that 99% of what occurs in life is out of your control. You don't control 99% of life. It's out of your hands. You can't control another person. You can sign 10 people up today to your business and they could all be gone next week. You don't control them. No matter how good they look or how good they sound, how great their first meeting went, they might not show up anymore. You don't control that. All we control is 1%. We only control 1%. Each one of us individual, no matter how much money, how much power, whatever, you control 1% of what happens in life. And that is your actions your energy and the way that you think. That's really all we control. What happens is, and Robert Greene is my favorite author. You familiar with Robert Greene?
I'm not familiar with Robert Greene.
He
Oh,
wrote the 48 Laws of Power. You heard of that book?
okay. Yep.
Okay, so he wrote that book, and he has about 5 or 6 others. Now, what Robert Greene talks about in one of his books is one of my favorites. He says, he doesn't say it in this way, I'm paraphrasing and adding my own thoughts into it, but when we take full control of that 1%, what happens is your influence over the 99% increases. So if you ever, anyone listening to this, and Gloria will use you since we're only 2 here, whenever you've been in a situation where you just felt fully powerful and fully engaged and fully connected and things were working and everything, the things that you were putting out there were actually getting a return on investment, did you notice that you almost could, it was almost like you were controlling the chessboard of what other people were doing, how they were responding to you, the answers you were getting back from others. It's almost like you just had this energy that was infecting others, even though you didn't actually control them. It was, you had a very strong influence on them, that energy. And that's a real thing.
Yep.
That's a real thing. Energy is magnetic. You can feel somebody's energy. When someone is strong in an energy, you can feel it. You can feel someone's energy when they walk in a room without them saying a single word. If that energy is strong enough, you can feel that. And that influences other people to do stuff. And what we call it, for the most part, we call that posture. When someone has a certain energetic posture, you can feel it in them. Like, I feel like following this person. I don't know who that is, but they look like somebody. You ever come across somebody, you can tell that. And other people can feel that coming. They can read that coming off of you. People can read fear. They can read nervousness. They can read confidence without you saying a single word. So it matters a whole lot. How much of that 1% you take control of, it influences how other people are taking you in and noticing you. And that influences what they eventually do or don't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I've totally experienced that. I agree with you completely. So what about taking initiative?
Well, the initiative is what puts all this into work, because everything we've been talking about at this point is all mindset. These are all things that take place in your mind. The initiative is what actually gets you started. And in the sales industry, anybody's going to go into sales, anything that is commission-based, whether it's network marketing, entrepreneurship, anything in between, you have to be a self-starter. You have to be, because nobody's going to make you get on the phone and make those calls. And if you don't make any calls, well, nobody owes you any money, right? Because you're on commission. So they don't care if you don't make any calls. So what? You're the one who's going to starve, right? So the personal initiative is about going in, making things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And us salespeople, us entrepreneurs, affiliate marketers, network marketers, we are self-starters. We have a high level of personal initiative, because we don't wait for someone to knock on our doors. We go knock on doors. We don't wait for someone to call our phones. We ring phones. We don't wait for our inbox to light up. We light up inboxes. Right? That's what we do. And that's how we go and create opportunities for ourselves. And not everybody is built for this world. And not everybody should be in this world. But those who are high-level self-starters, usually, and this is the way that I was, when I first heard about and saw network marketing, it was my introduction to entrepreneurship, period. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. And I was in college with getting a business degree. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. And when I saw it, I said, oh, there's a world where your effort and your performance has a linear relationship to how much money you make. Okay, then why would I go work somewhere and just get paid a certain amount per hour, regardless of my performance level, when I go somewhere else and I get paid based on my performance? I'd rather do that. And that's what led me to entrepreneurship.
Right. Well, Dre, I have to give you huge kudos, because I was just talking about you today on one of my team calls. And I asked people, have you seen anything recently, whether it's in an email, on social media? Have you seen anything that's really grabbed your attention? And a couple of people, came up with a couple different things. And then I talked about you. Yeah. And I said, so I've had a couple people, maybe 5, and you're one of them, who have sent me an email with a personalized video. So huge kudos to you, because I get people reaching out to me all the time, who want to be on my podcast. And, I would say I say no to probably 90% of them. Probably 9 out of 10, I say no, doesn't feel like the right fit. But because of your personalized video, first of all, I watched it, right? If somebody takes the time to create a video that's personalized for me, I'm going to watch it, because I think that person deserves a whole ton of credit. So kudos to you for doing that. And then because I really liked what you said, I thought, yeah, absolutely. I'm getting Dre on my podcast. So, I mean, so I used that and I said, hey, how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you, as you just said, how do you light up in people's inboxes? How do you stand out from all the messages you get on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever? You've got to do something different. You've got to take initiative to do something different. And I used you as an example, and we came up with different ways that we as a team could take initiative by doing personalized videos, personalized voice messages to people to stand out from the crowd. And it'll be really interesting to see how many of those people actually take the initiative to do the personalized video or the personalized voice message.
That's right. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. I'm glad it worked. I'm glad we're here, and it worked. And
it did work.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, Gloria, that as a salesperson is very important, especially these days, because it's so easy to connect with anybody. It's so easy to message or contact any person, prospect or a salesperson, that you got to figure out what can you do that doesn't scale? What can you do that other people are not going to do, that they can't just click a couple buttons and send some AI software to do, that is actually personalized, because that still matters. It still matters. Still matters to call somebody on their birthday. It still matters to send someone a card with your actual signature on it. Those things still matter, even though we have all this technology these days that makes it easy to kind of mass communicate. People still appreciate a personalized, somebody actually taking the time to think about them. And a lot of people are getting away from that. And what I tell my audience all the time, Gloria, is that the opportunity is in the opposites. Look at what most people are doing. The opportunity is in doing the opposite of that.
Interesting. Yeah. And look, how many people, I can honestly remember probably 5 personalized videos I've had in the last 10 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anybody listening wants to get on the show, you know what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Send me a personalized video. Exactly. 100%. So what would you say is the most valuable thing that people get from working with you, Dre?
Most valuable thing that they get? That's a really good question. The most valuable thing a person gets is when I ask people who work with me, what is it about me? Is I'm not the only one in the world who's ever talked about mindset or make more money in your business or make more sales or whatever it is. I didn't invent these topics. I'm pretty good at them, but I didn't invent them. And they say, Dre, I like the fact that you're no BS, no fluff. You get straight to the point, no nonsense. And I think people, I've been told, they say, Jerry, you have a calming influence. Like, I feel like I can just talk to you. I feel like you hold space and I can talk to you and I can be myself and I can share what's really going on and I'm not being judged. And you're going to talk about it from an objective view. And even if I'm emotional, you're not getting emotional, and you can really help me see things clearly and logically and rationally as they are. And what's interesting about that answer, Gloria, is that has nothing to do with like any piece of my framework or, I never wrote a book about any of these things, but those are the things that really separate me from everyone else. Because again, there's a lot of people who talk about similar topics, but it's my energy, I guess, my aura, as we talked about, that really makes me different according to the people I work with. This is what they tell me.
Right. That's great. Yeah. Now, I have to ask you this question because I'm really curious. How did you make the transition from being a professional basketball player to getting into this businesses you've got, where you've been an author of 33 books? That's a lot. I've authored a book myself and I've created a bunch of courses, but 33 books is a lot. And doing the coaching that you're doing, like, what was the transition process like for you?
Yeah, the transition happened. Well, first I was making all these videos on YouTube just for ball players back when I was playing ball. And this is when YouTube first came out, like 2005. So around 2009, 2010, the ball players started asking about my approach because they just saw I was really consistent. I was putting videos out every day before it was cool to put anything on the internet for free every day. So they just asked, man, why do you do this? Why do you put videos out every day? Or how do you put videos out every day? And then they would ask about confidence, because in sports, a lot of athletes get performance anxiety. So it's one thing to practice in an empty gym, it's another thing to do it with everybody watching. And then they would ask about, well, I only played 1 year of high school basketball, and I played Division III college ball, which is like the third tier of college sports. Pro athletes don't come out of that level. So Dre, coming from where you came from, how'd you keep the vision alive in your mind? You could even become a pro athlete, because it's kind of a far-fetched kind of pipe dream, to be honest, to even think you can do it. or they'd ask how I got started playing ball professionally, or how you get started getting known on the internet. Because by about 2009, 2010, now being known on the internet was actually starting to become a career aspiration for the up and coming generation. Now they don't want to be firefighters and president; they want to be a YouTuber, right? That was the thing.
Right.
And now I was a known YouTuber, right? So I just started answering those questions, and I started talking about these things we've been talking about here: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. I used to do these videos called the Weekly Motivation. I did them every Monday. In addition to the other 6 days a week, it was just basketball stuff. And I did the Weekly Motivation in Gloria every Monday for 400 Mondays in a row. And those videos built the bridge, because what happened when I was making those videos, I was just talking, this is little 2 to 5 minute little selfie videos, just talking about things like showing up every day and being ready for your next opportunity, and how you use it. You can use a setback as a setup for a comeback, and just ways that I thought mentally, because I've always been a big reader. So this stuff was already in me. And I didn't think it was really that unique, honestly. I thought everybody thought like that. I thought anybody who was successful just had this default way of thinking, and they could explain it. And I just happened to be the one explaining it. But I realized that most people did not think like this. And also most people could not articulate it. So when I started putting it out there, the ball players appreciated it and said, Dre, man, you sound like a philosopher the way you're explaining this stuff, even though they knew me from basketball. And also what happened is people who did not play basketball started finding me online. And they said, well, Dre, I know a lot of your channel, your content is basketball stuff, but that video you do every Monday, man, that applies to everybody. I don't play basketball. Like, my son watches your videos, but I heard that one and I noticed it. Right. So that's how I knew there was a bridge between athletics and entrepreneurship was the mindset piece. So I already knew I stopped playing in 2015. So the last 5 years of my career, I already knew what I was going to do after basketball. Because when you're not actively in the game every day, like, I knew when I stopped playing, I wouldn't be that popular to the next wave of ball players, because I wouldn't be in front of them every day on the court. So I said, I need a transition. I need to figure out what that's going to be, because I didn't want to be a coach or a trainer. I knew I wanted to do something else. And again, I read, Robert Kiyosaki in the 2002. So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know how. So that's how I knew already that that's what I would do. Self-publishing became ubiquitous around that time. I had a blog. I started making courses. I've always been an internet geek. I'm an athlete. I'm also an internet geek. So I've always been a big computer guy. So at this time, this is when all of this stuff starts to coalesce. Social media, influencing, branding, making your own courses, putting yourself out there, not needing a gatekeeper to approve of you to put your stuff out there. All of that happened all at the same time. So that's how it occurred.
That's fascinating. Love that story. Yeah. And how much do you think your experience as an athlete, whether it's professional or not, I mean, obviously professional is a very high level, but just as an athlete, someone who took the game seriously, even if you hadn't played pro, but if you'd stopped after college, how much do you think your experience as an athlete has impacted your ability to have the discipline and the initiative and everything else that's enabled you to have a successful entrepreneurial career?
A ton, because even my professional career as an athlete, Gloria, was not some smooth yellow brick road. Right? There were times in between jobs I didn't know when the next job was going to be. Like, I'm waiting for the phone to ring. So people who don't know the sports world think of an actor or actress. They just finished the last movie, but they don't know when the next movie's coming. All right, it's like that. All right, sometimes in sports it can be just like that. So I didn't know when that next phone call was coming or when that next check was going to be coming in. So I had to use my own mental toughness to stay the course, even though I didn't know if there was a course. I had to stay disciplined, keep working out and staying in shape, stay confident, believing in my path, even though the path, I couldn't see the next step. And I had to take the initiative. There are times when I went out and found my own next job. And I went around the agent, circumvented the agent, and went straight to the team. So these same 4 principles we've been talking about here, I had to use these in my sports, the business side of my sports career, as well as the athletic side. So then when I got into the entrepreneurial side, I just started sharing those things with my audience. So my audience, people who've been following me for a while, they know these things about me. So they know everything that I'm talking about. I'm not just talking from theory. I'm talking from what I actually lived.
Well, you and I actually have a lot more in common than it may appear, because you're making me think about, and I know this is true for me. I was a musician. I started off in 3rd grade playing clarinet, and I majored in music in college. And when all the other kids were off doing summer vacation, Christmas vacation, whatever, I was practicing 5 to 6 hours a day. So my experience as a musician, you as an athlete, helped me build that mental toughness, the discipline. Well, I had to go out and perform just like you had to perform on the court. I had to perform as a musician. So it's all those things of building confidence, the discipline, the initiative to do it when other kids were out having fun. I'm sure it was the same with you, right?
Yes, I've heard. Well, no, basketball, it might be more fun when you're practicing than playing an instrument. I don't know. What instrument did you play?
I played saxophone. Yeah.
Okay, so my dad's a musician. He's big into music. He worked a 9-to-5 job, but music is his passion. So after his job, a lot of times he would go straight from his 9-to-5 straight to some kind of music gig, playing at a cabaret and stuff like that. He's more keyboards. That's his specialty, and keyboards, and he does some vocals. But yeah, my dad's big into music. I don't know how much he practiced. I never asked, but yeah, I know he practiced a lot.
Yeah. So Dre, you have a book that you'd like to tell everybody about. If people want to find out more about you and your book, how do we get in touch with you?
Okay, let's go with this book, which is called, if I can get it off the shelf. This is The Third Day, the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. So the third day is a framework that goes under the umbrella of discipline, Gloria. And this is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. So we can think about, again, somebody joins your team, network marketing. First day, they're all excited, right? They just signed up and they see the picture of all they're going to do and all the money they can make. And they see all these other people walking across the stage and all of that, right? Second day, a little bit of that, the energy is worn off. I mean, they're not in the room anymore, but they're still locked in. They're still happy about it. And by the third day, already, you might have to revive some people, right? Already, by the third day.
Absolutely.
Right? Because what happens on the third day is they realize, oh, I actually had to do some work here. I actually had to call somebody. I had to make an offer. I had to ask them a question. I got to deal with maybe some uncomfortable conversations with some people. And the third day, or maybe they made an offer to someone and they got told, hey, don't do that. That's not going to work. Lose your money. And now you got to go into recovery mode, right? Sometimes with these people. Right. So the third day is any moment in any situation when you realize that it's not going to be one big party. It's not all fun and games, and there's some actual work involved. And the third day is not so much about the situation, the occurrence, Gloria. It's about the decision. What do you do in that moment? Because everyone comes across that moment. I don't care what you do for a living, what business you're in, what industry. Everyone comes across that moment when you don't really feel like it, and you realize it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be, and you get to choose. Do I show up or do I not? And the third day is all about how you put the structure and the system in place to show up when you don't always feel like showing up. So I give everybody a free copy of this book, paperback version. All you have to do is cover the shipping, and we will physically ship a copy of this book to your doorstep. Just go to thirddaybook.com. That's all spelled out. Thirddaybook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping.
Great. Love it, Dre. So third, spelled out THIRD, thirddaybook.com. Thanks so much, Dre. Really appreciate everything you shared today. Great to connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your platform, Gloria. I appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.